Some more thoughts on Brie Larson, America's sweetheart. I was just talking to a girl in a bar who's about 20 years old, and she was going on about how annoying Brie Larson is. It's universal. It's not gender specific. Women hate her probably more than men. And the most annoying thing to me, as I've said before, is these people who walk around acting like moral authorities. I find that really obnoxious. Especially because all of us have skeletons in our closet. We've all done things that are wrong, and none of us... That's why most of us don't go around saying what's right and wrong the way Brie Larson does. Now, in terms of gender and prejudices against gender, do we know that men and women were born differently or that they were raised differently? Was it nature or nurture? Are women just generally more forgiving and sensitive and prone to crying? And are men just naturally more angry and aggressive? Or were they raised to be like that? I don't think anybody knows the answer. It is a fact that we're more likely to cuddle a little girl that's crying. And we're more likely, if the little boy's crying, we're more likely to say, come on, don't be such a wimp. That's a fact. They've done studies where they've had little toddlers dressed in pink and blue, regardless of their gender, and the adults would always show more compassion to the little babies, the toddlers, in the pink when they were crying. So yeah, maybe we do train them to be like that. But that doesn't mean that they're not also born that way a little bit. I mean, men masturbate to porn, visuals. Women tend to masturbate to like romance novels. Porn doesn't really move them sexually. There are differences. And I'm just saying we don't know the extent to which men and women are different. So for someone like Brie Larson to be being so vocal, almost like a gender expert, when she's actually just an actress. She doesn't actually know anything about this subject, especially. She knows about acting. She could lecture about acting. And no offense to actors, but, acting is professional bullshitting. Like, you're a professional liar. So you're probably the last person who should be talking about anything regarding truth or right and wrong. Like, save that for Plato or Socrates or Aristotle. They spent a lot of time on these subjects, Brie. And then there's the fact that this bitch is cashing $1 million paycheck from a corporation called Disney. She's the lowest of the low in terms of ethics. Okay? She better have donated that $1 million paycheck for Captain Marvel. She better have donated that to women's shelters and shelters for battered women. Right? Right, Brie? And black women. It's just so ridiculous. If you think that there's more diversity required, then step down. Don't be Captain Marvel. You should insist that a black woman do it. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't sell out and then talk about how selling out is so bad and you're above that. As early as even a couple hundred years ago, they would have signs outside of restaurants and establishments. Signs that said, no prostitutes, actors, or other degenerates allowed in. Being an actor was as low as being a prostitute up until 100 years ago, ever since the movies started getting big. That's just a side note. Now, in terms of the whole Me Too movement, right? Okay, yeah, it's wrong for the casting couch that women are made to feel like they have to have sex in order to get a role, right? And good for the women that refused and said, screw you, you asshole. But you got to think, how many women are there out there who did consciously sleep their way to the top to get the role and had no qualms about it whatsoever, or even seduced the directors or producers in order to get the role? Destroyed their relationships with their wives, right? Cheated with them. I once personally knew a Hollywood producer, and he goes, you have no idea the big named actresses there are out there, the things that they did to get their role, to get where they are at. like the people they slept with, the things they did. And he's like, people that are like America's sweethearts, like Julia Roberts or whatever, whoever. I'm not saying she did, but you know, the one thing I've learned is that you don't get anything for free in this life, aside from inheritance. Donald Trump. And if somebody, how did Brie Larson beat out every other girl that's just as pretty or prettier than her and smarter than her? How did she get to the top? Was it because she's just so great? No. Chances are she did some nasty shit. I'm not saying it was sexual, but maybe she fucked over, you know, her best friend for a role. Or, you know, whatever, stole money from her parents. Who knows? But you don't get to the top by being a good person in this world, as far as I can tell. Oh, and one thought on her as the face of Marvel, the new face going forward of Marvel. They shouldn't have brought her in so quickly. They should have slowly brought her in over the course of like 5 movies. It's too early. We haven't suffered with her. We haven't gotten to know her. That's why it's wrong. It was rushed. And I'll repeat, isn't it enough that she's the protagonist and that she gets a starring role and that she's getting all of this? Isn't that enough girl power? It's overkill for her to be going on behind the scenes doing press conferences where she's trashing men. It's just too much. Just take it. You've been given the keys to the kingdom. You don't need to then start shitting all over all of the inhabitants of the kingdom. And back to the Marvel movies, like, you know, you look at Spider-Man, how they introduced him. They introduced him as being a big fanboy of Tony Stark. Right? Mr. Stark, is this okay? Is that okay? He looks up to him. Why? Because he's the new guy in town. And when you're the new guy in town, you have to pay your dues. And Ant-Man, Scott Lang, is constantly kissing up to Captain America. And he's constantly like, they're making fun of him. They're showing how the kids don't want his autograph. They only want Hulk's autograph. And Iron Man doesn't even know who he is. Everybody keeps forgetting. There's a running gag about how nobody even knows who he is. They should have done that with Brie Larson initially. You don't just bring her in immediately and have her being like more cocky than like acting like Iron Man and Captain America are lucky to have her. It doesn't work because these are the people that we're friends with. You don't just bring a new person in and have them all of a sudden calling all the shots and expect to have them be liked. And you know, I know that Brie Larson's an actress and or an actor, because there's not a gender for an actor. But if she wants to play the role of a gender expert and a moral authority on genders, she should do the research, because that's what good actors do. They hang out with people that they're trying to act like. So she should be hanging out with experts in gender studies, and she should be copying their facial expressions, because she's got to play that role a lot better, because she comes off as a hack, or it looks like she's acting. I sincerely hope I don't have to ever mention this bitch again, or look at that stupid face ever again, but who knows. I mean, maybe she's just getting started annoying me. I'm trying not to watch her stupid anything with her at all. So hopefully this will be it. Okay, have a nice day. If you support gays, click like. If you respect blacks, comment. If you think women are people too, click the notification bell. And if you care about sick children, subscribe. So I've decided that if I'm going to experience really shitty movies and TV, I should go for the shittiest. So I'm going to read a Danielle Steele novel. I mean, we've all heard the legend about how bad they are. But I want to actually read one so I can say firsthand. And to remind myself just how stupid everybody is. So I'll probably read one on YouTube soon. And, well, I probably won't read the whole thing because it's going to suck that bad, right? It's probably 99% boring. But there's probably some really funny shit in there. You know, like how the woman cheats on her husband with the pool boy. Housewife masturbation material at its finest. What will probably end up happening is that I'll read the good parts, the really funny parts, and I'll just make fun of it mainly. It'll be a lot of me just paraphrasing and telling the synopsis of how ridiculous the story is. And I don't think I want to die having not read one Danielle Steele novel, because we always quote them. We always say, oh, that's like a Danielle Steele novel. But I want to actually have read one. And then I can say, yeah, I've looked stupid right in the face. So I know what I'm talking about.